Well, there you go. Lola has made her move. She has left Tech Spania to join J Block. Now, to stop me from revealing any spoilers, let's turn our attention to an important grammar point. Let me ask you a question. Did your father give you a lot of good advices when you were young? Did your mother give you a lot of good advices when you were young? No, they didn't. Your father didn't give you good advices, and neither did your mother. Because advice is an uncountable noun, and therefore cannot be used in the plural. Have another listen to this paragraph from the episode.
In the back of her mind, she remembered the 3 pieces of advice that Concha had given her. Don't tell them where you're going, don't get emotional, and above all else, do not change your mind.
You either use advice as an uncountable noun, she gave me a lot of good advice, or, as in the segment that you have just heard, you use a countable noun to quantify the advice. She gave me 3 pieces of advice. What you must not say is she gave me 3 advices. Now, talking about advices is one of the most common mistakes that you hear from non-native speakers in business situations. So try to avoid that mistake. Now, what do you think of those 3 pieces of advice? Lola is going to resign, and her best friend says, don't get emotional, don't tell them where you're going, and do not change your mind. Do you think that this is good advice? Well, let's imagine, like Lola, that you have worked happily at your company for many years. You like them, and they like you. But then a wonderful opportunity arises. It's your dream job. It's an opportunity that's too good to refuse. So you accept it. Now you have to go back to your old company and resign. You have to look your boss in the eyes and tell him or her it's over. So, firstly, don't get emotional. It's your career. It's your future. And if there was ever a time to make a rational decision, then this is it. Now, it's difficult to remain unemotional at times like this, but it's necessary. Secondly, don't tell them where you're going. You see, if you give them this valuable piece of information, then they will tell you why that specific company is not a good fit for you and your personality. They may even introduce you to people who used to work there and were really unhappy. And little by little, they'll put doubts into your head until you eventually crumble. So don't tell them where you're going until they've accepted your resignation and you are out of the building. Which brings us to the third and final piece of advice. Don't change your mind. You should be 100% committed when you tell somebody that you're resigning. Why? Well, if they convince you to stay, if they persuade you to withdraw your resignation, maybe by increasing your salary, giving you a promotion, or offering you some other kind of improvement, then on the surface, everyone will feel quite pleased with themselves. But deep down, there will be a breakdown in trust. You are no longer going to be seen as a team player. You have put a gun to their head, and things will never be the same. In my 15 years working in investment banking, I have seen people who have resigned and then changed their minds. And it almost always ends in tears. So, in conclusion, I think those 3 pieces of advice that Concha gives to Lola are very sound. What do you think? Okay, let's move on to a fundamentally important business word and concept. Listen to this sentence again.
Listen, Lola. Tech España controls the cybersecurity sector in Spain, South America, and much of Europe. Our strategic objective is to defend our monopoly position.
What is a monopoly? And why does Ruiz de Velasco want to defend his monopoly position? Well, in its purest form, a monopoly is a company that is the only supplier of a good or service in a specific market. It faces no competition. Now, in the old days, the big telecommunications companies were monopolies. And in these days, the big tech companies like Facebook could be called monopolies as well. Now, here's the rule about monopolies. They always and everywhere screw the consumer. They are a failure of capitalism. And you, me, and all the other customers suffer. Why? Because we have nowhere else to go. We have no choice but to use the monopoly's services, no matter how bad or expensive they are. Let me give you a real-life example. We moved to Madrid in 2012, at the height of the financial crisis. And in our neighborhood, almost all of the restaurants had shut down. In fact, there was only one that had survived. So there was only one place that you could eat out if you didn't want to drive 20 minutes into the center of Madrid. So this restaurant was therefore a monopoly supplier in our local market. Now, what do you think the service was like at this restaurant? It was absolutely awful, terrible, horrible. The food was expensive, the waiters were rude, and yet the business made a lot of money because it was a monopoly and customers had nowhere else to go. Until 3 years later, and the economy is starting to recover, and another restaurant opened up next door. So guess what happened next? Everyone, including myself and my family, started eating at the new restaurant, and eventually the old restaurant went out of business. It was taken over. So nowadays, we have 6 restaurants in our neighborhood. We have a real choice. And the service in all of them is great. Why? Because there is healthy competition and the customer can choose. Now let's go back to the story. The strategic goal of Mario Ruiz de Velasco is to defend his company's monopoly position. You see, monopolies are bad for consumers, but they are great for the owners of a business because they don't have to compete. They don't have to lower their prices and improve their standards. They can generate excess profits. And that is exactly why Mario Ruiz de Velasco wants to defend his monopoly position. So in conclusion, the next time you receive consistently poor service from a company, ask yourself why this is. And normally the answer will be the company providing you with the service has some kind of monopoly power. You have nowhere else to go. Okay, let's move on to an interesting common expression. Have a listen to this sentence again.
Lola started to feel uncomfortable. She resented the implication that her father had pulled strings for her.
To pull some strings. This means that you are secretly using your power and influence to manipulate a situation. The term comes from puppetry. So puppets or marionettes are manipulated by the means of strings that are held by the puppet master. Now, how would you feel if someone was pulling strings for you? How would you feel if, hidden behind the scenes, a powerful ally was manipulating the situation for your benefit? Well, in the case of Lola, it makes her feel uncomfortable and resentful. Why? Because it implies that her success is not due to her own skill, talent, and hard work, but due to the influence of her father and the intervention of Mario Ruiz de Velasco. She doesn't want anyone pulling strings for her. After all, what pleasure is there in success that you have not earned? What pleasure is there in success that you do not deserve? Okay, on that note, we come to the end of today's class. In the next session, we will be introducing some new characters to our story as Lola starts her new life at her new company, and we continue to entertain you to a fluent and confident level of business English. Until then, keep practicing, and remember, don't get emotional, don't tell them where you're going, and above all else, do not change your mind.